and just thoughts of that nature. So I don't know. When it comes to the environment, I don't know. We're all going to die. Even if human civilization goes on for, a billion or whatever, we mutate into something else, or we replace ourselves with AI. Even the AI is eventually going to die. Sometime. I don't know. I feel like if it has a beginning, it has an end. So I don't know. But I do like thinking about like the climate's interesting because there's so much complex science that goes into it. A lot of it, I think, really does have to do with what frame of mind you're coming from, whether you're pessimist or optimist, or you know how much of a
The
load.
only thing I ever think is whenever I think about, the next century or so, I just think, well, I'm glad I didn't become a parent.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to being a parent, but that's definitely one of the big pressures to the contrary. Is you know I wouldn't want to put them in a situation where they didn't have some like viable hope for a rosy outcome. You know, but who knows? I mean, in the 70s, people were saying the climate was only going to last like another 10, 20 years. We're doing some things have gotten better. The ozone seems to be healing slowly. Even though there's plenty of other problems. There's the landfill the size of Texas in the middle of the ocean, and other interesting stuff. But I don't know. I don't know how resilient our ecosystem really is. I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, even if it was before the environment, like I don't know, it's the apocalypse. There's always been a good doom and gloom story to depress people if they were looking for it.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, no one knows, but it's hard to say that we're in any kind of a good position. Uh, Things seem pretty bleak at the moment.
well, I guess that's one I feel like having morbid thoughts is like a kind of safety release valve for me. Like if it, if I'm afraid of the inevitable, I'll get wound up about it. But if I just accept it, like okay, well then let's just enjoy myself. Like if it's bleak and tragic, all right, let's make some lemonade. So I don't know. So I've been trying to like connect it in my mind too. So I actually feel like being dark and morbid in some sense, being able to have like some kind of gallows humor. I'm starting to feel like it's important to like my own perverse interpretation of like the spirit of like stoicism or Zen, or like just not being phased by the universal eternal truths. You know, like I've just been associating like so. There's the I don't remember who they wanted to have the statement of what would be true all the time, and the guy said, "This too shall pass." You know, and I mean, I feel like memento mori is just another way of saying that. You too will die. So I don't know. I feel like if you're going to have a stable relationship with truth, a little bit of dark humor is going to go goes a long way. But
Sometimes you get people who say, "Yeah, I can't take too much darkness. It's just overwhelming to me." And I just, well, everybody's got to find the right balance for themselves. And some people have more tolerance than other people. My tolerance level is very high, actually. Uh, um, but I understand most people probably wouldn't be able to. So,
yeah, well, I definitely I'm an outlier when it comes to the dark side. Like so, I don't know. To use a Star Wars metaphor, like I love the Force. I feel like I am a Force sensitive Force user. Even though I'm not a supernaturalist per se, but it's a good metaphor. But I'm not a Jedi. I'm not a member of their cult. I'm not a Sith. I'm not a member of their cult. I like the Force, the light side and the dark side, and I don't feel like you're really knowing the whole Force. If you don't know both sides of it. So
yin yang.
Yeah, D- Taoism, I'm starting to think, is probably one of the closest things to me in my constellation, because I feel like it doesn't have some of the flaws that like Buddhism or Stoicism might have, because it doesn't necessarily imply ethics, at least from what I've read. I haven't read Shang-Chi yet, but just the Tao Te Ching. I've read a couple translations, but no, it seems to be more about just going with the flow. That it's easier to maintain a steady flow by doing what could be called moral or whatever behavior, you know. But it's not necessarily prescriptive, you know. Uh, Maybe that's just my take, but it's more descriptive of the way a sage stays in the flow. I feel like so. Like the Wu Dang monks, they're not pacifists. I don't know. I don't know. A lot of my philosophy has been up in the air lately. I've been working a lot of things out and trying to take out a lot of trash too. So
Hmm. That sounds exciting.
it has been. I'm not. The fact that you upload these videos on Twitch, man, uh, that I get to see myself after the fact. It's some of the best feedback, man. It's like it's gut wrenching, it's cringing and it's nausea. Like, oh my god, this is how I actually talk. How I think I'm acting, how I'm actually acting, are like so worlds apart. Like how I
Yeah.
think so many other people are exhausting, I'm exhausting. Just I feel like I haven't had such good, useful information to like better myself with. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can look in a mirror. You can have a friend that you trust with similar views to you, but it's not the same as like, oh my god, me from my perspective, I find myself exhausting. Oh my god, I know what I was trying to do right there.
That's
I
great.
should have.
You ever do any
You,
public speaking?
uh, not like speeches. Much. I hosted a poetry open mic for
Yeah.
a few months, but I did a poetry circuit in town for like 2 years or so, and
Oh, well, that's great.
a handful of it was improv, and most of that sucked, I'm sure. But I don't know. I had experience embarrassing myself, but actually, I think of that a lot often when I think of the few encounters I've had on Meetup and on Zoom and whatnot. Like so when I hosted a poetry open, like basically like a third of the people actually have poems that they prepared, that they're interested in, that are artful, and that are good to listen to, even if it's weird and not your style. Like that was definitely poetry. Then there's like another third that's they've got something to say, and they might make it artful, and they might not. They've got something to say, and it's a format flexible enough for that. And then there's the other third that, like in Fight Club when he says people just want to hear themselves talk, like. So I feel like there's a little bit of that in this. Like there's a handful of people that they get on board and they're just like, oh my god, I just my point of view, I've just been waiting to tell someone that I could hold hostage long enough to listen.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I feel like there's a good handful of people have a good head on their shoulder, and there's a other handful that have interesting enough minds that they're not detracting. I think
Here
from
at the meetups that you've been to?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mixture. It's a mixture. Mm. But yeah, there's some good people with them. You got some good conversation. I think I'm still in the experimental phase here. I'm still not really quite sure what I'm doing here, but I'm just kind of feeling my way through. I think there's potential here to even do better, but I'm just kind of working out exactly the way I want this to be. And some of the meetups I'm doing now they're still experimental, like the Friday night graphic novel group and the movie group and stuff like that. Mm. Um,
well, I think it's cool. You're the only person other than like one place in London that I found, because I put in different addresses on Meetup just to see what's out there, that had an open forum. Like, so just that, I don't know. I think
well, there's a few. The Stoa group I think they're in Toronto. The Stoa meetup has a Friday night. Uh, what do they call it? Social. I think they call it a social, Socratic social. That's what they call it. Yeah, but that's a different format. They just you go into if there's you know what breakout rooms are on Zoom when you have like 20 people in a Zoom call, you can put them in breakout rooms, and so there's only chunks of 4 people in the room. You know, they divide it up everybody who's in there. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing that in the past, but I can't figure out a good way to do it. I know Heron, you met him. He likes doing the breakout rooms, but I can't figure
Heron?
out a good way of doing it.
I'm at Heron.
Maybe not. I don't know. He's always around. You'll meet him eventually. He's always coming
Okay.
in here.
All right. There's a handful of regulars. I've noticed there's Rick Marshall. I've seen Andy.
Yeah, he only come. Rick is only here for the Monday afternoon Kenneth Smith talk.
Okay, so that's something that's caught my mind. So Rick, and I went to one of Ivan's meetups last week. All mentioned Kenneth Smith. Who is he? He's someone that y'all knew personally, or through these philosophy groups or something,
Who's
or was
meetup?
he?
Who's meetup? Audrey? You said
Are you talking to me?
yeah. You said
Oh,
who's?
Kenneth Smith. Kenneth R. Smith.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But you said 2 different meetups. The Monday afternoon meetup, and who else did you
Oh,
say?
Ivan had a rationality meetup
Ivan.
last week.
Ivan. Yes.
Sorry, sorry, I didn't know what part you couldn't.
Ivan. Yeah. Right. Right. Oh, no. No. The only way anybody knows Kenneth Smith is through me. If anybody says anything, that's because they were talking to me. But no. Did you go to the website? Let me pull up the website for you.
Well, I checked out those links. The first one for the Greek character in class, and then the ones that were uh, material
Yeah,
before the last one with Rick Marshall.
this one. You
Okay.
see that? This is my website actually. Let me pump that up a bit. Is that
Oh,
coming
it
in
was
there?
born in Austin, Texas.
And still lives. Well, I mean, born in Austin, Texas. Yeah, graduated. PhD Yale, 1972.
Okay, so he lives in Dallas now, or has since 1983.
He's back in Austin at the moment. So basically, he began writing columns on philosophy and modern culture in 1988, and that's where I first discovered him, and I've been reading him ever since. And he's got a couple of books. And anyway, what we had been doing. I think it was Friday mornings. We would do a seminar. I still have those recordings. I would love to go through them again. Um, and Rick's done some recordings with him, and we'd love to get him on. We've been trying to get him on at some point, but it's just impossible. But we're crossing our fingers. We're still hopeful we'll get him on one of these days. We'll have to see. We're still kind of badgering him, but it's almost impossible. Hey, Rem.
Hi, David, and that's Christopher. Hi, Christopher.
But I've been reading him since the 1980s, since I was a teenager. He's one of my favorite writers, authors, thinkers, teachers, philosophers. He's opened my eyes to a lot. He's introduced me to a lot. I find he's oriented me to a great deal of the way I think, the way I take things, the way I mean, he's just been an enormous influence on my life. One of the top 3, I would say, and if not top 2, and I don't know who the other one would be. But I've been trying to get. I've been trying a number of things. I've been trying to get him more publicized because nobody knows him. So that would be one of my goals. But also, I'd want to see if we could have more conversation about the subjects he raises. I mean, I put him in the category of cultural critic, those who criticize the society, the civilization that we've constructed. You know, they're like the great ones, like you know, Gore Vidal, George Orwell, you know, Mencken, Bloom, all the great cultural critics of our age, people who are taking a critical view of society. And Smith certainly has been doing that for a large number of years. He's just a extraordinary writer, and I would just want to bring him more public publicity, but also I want to actually discuss the issues that he raises. And as I've said before, just a few minutes ago, the results so far are, well, let's just say mixed. I'm kind of working through exactly how to steer things more in the direction that I'd like to go, even though I'm not even sure what that is. But I don't mind like the free form discussions, which they've all been so far. I don't mind that at all. But I think we could be doing more. But I'm not sure how. I'm kind of working that out. I think we could be doing more, but I don't know exactly what direction to go in. So I'm just kind of working that out. But anyway, yeah, Smith, everybody should be reading him. You should be reading. Everybody should be.
Well,
Who are you talking about?
Okay, one at a time. Chris, yeah, what were you saying?
I've seen a few articles that have been recommended on Meetup or as a preface to one of the talks or whatever. And he's an interesting thinker.
I definitely recommend his writing. Yeah. Okay, Rem. Now.
But just the author. Who are you talking about?
Smith, Kenneth Smith.
Kenneth Smith.
Right here. Right here. We're just going over this. KennethSmithPhilosophy.com.
Right. Okay.
You all about it. There he is.
I'm going to have to read up on this because I was very enrolled by what you were saying here. Sorry, I was
the
about
problem is our Monday morning Smithiana group happens right when you're in the middle of the night there.
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah. I might have to get up. Look, I'm going to have to do some reading on it. So sorry to interrupt the conversation. I just wanted to mesh in. So no, right.
I mean, guess my top recommendation for reading. And if you did nothing but read Kenneth Smith, I mean, nothing at all, you'd still be going in like 7-8 years. I mean, he was so prolific at his time, and none of it is available. So.
Well, that's why I was curious. I looked him up, and all I could find were the blogs that y'all referred me to.
Just me, yeah.
And it's nice to know that you're the source of the pro-Smithian propaganda, because you, not just you, but Rick and Ivan had mentioned it. So I was like, okay, I don't know if this is an inside thing. I want in on it, you know.
Well, I'm glad Ivan took to it so well. Yeah, Ivan just started coming to this group 2 months ago, and I've only known him through this, and so that's great. You know, if you talk to me for any length of time, eventually I'm going to mention Kenneth Smith. I mean, it's inevitable. There's no way around that. But
well, I'm just curious.
Known. I'm just looking, and there's hardly anybody that talks about him. What's going on?
You mean on the internet? No.
I'm just looking on my other screen there, and there's barely anything on Kenneth Smith.
Yeah, from a Google search.
Yeah.
No, this is it. I'm the only source. I'm it, basically.
I got to read it.
He put up a website like 10 years ago, or like 20 years ago. Like he put up a website, but he never updated it, and I think it's down at the moment. He's just always busy. He's just busy. He's just always doing stuff. It's hard to get a hold of him to actually do this stuff. But we did a Friday morning seminars, he called them. I still have every one of those recorded. I think I missed one over the years, but those are great. I'd love to go through them. I'd love to put those on the schedule, like our Monday night existentialism study group, and we can just go through those lectures one by one by one. Just great stuff, and it's just the wealth and depth and breadth of his knowledge and his erudition. It's extraordinary. I mean, if you want a an orientation to these issues. I can't think of a better source.
So where can I start to familiarize myself? Because you
There-
certainly
there-
inspired
there-
me.
There, right there. Okay.
And this is the
Okay,
second.
I'm new to Kenneth Smith. Where should I start? Question mark. Start here, link. This is a collection of quotes. Go through them a bit, see what you think. Okay, done. What next? If you liked what you read there, you can go through his magazine columns. Here they are: Dramas of the Mind, End Times, Crypto Revolution, Human Natures, and The Cave of False Consciousness. That's going to take a while to get through. I'm making my way through it. Anything else? Here's an interview with him. Well, then why not do that? Oh, wow. I don't know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. Okay, never mind. Okay.
Right, got it. I just went to his
I need to
URL.
update that.
Yeah, right, okay.
I need to update that.
How long have you been doing this, by the way, David?
How long have I been doing Meetup?
Yeah, or hosting online at least. I don't know.
Oh, hosting online. Actually, that's longer than you think. When Meetup first started, I think Meetup first started 2002. I think it was. I think it was a response to 9/11, actually. It was let's join together as a community, and it was free. It was free at the time, and you could. They didn't have any hosts at the time, but I joined a whole bunch of stuff at the time when it became popular, 02, 03. And then it was still free, and they started having hosts where you could actually take a group and you can become the organizer of that group, and they would just let anybody do. And I just grabbed like 27 different groups, like all sorts of different topics. And it was all free. Anybody could do it. And then it wasn't too long after that they started charging money. But the great thing was, I'm still running on a lot of those groups that I grabbed at that time, like back in 04. These are the same groups, and I stupidly, just deleted a lot of them. So now I'm down to, what am I down to now? I'm down to like the 9 that I have. But at one point I had like 17, and I just stupidly got rid of them. I wish I had them back, but then you got to pay for them. So I just got grandfathered in to the system. I'm still paying the low rate. I think it's like $90 a month or $90 like 6 months or something like that. So it's not too bad. But you're only allowed 3. You're only allowed 3 groups if you sign up now. But I have 9. And plus, there's another guy who's given me free reign for his, so that's a 10th. So these are the 10 that I have at the low price that I have. So I got lucky on that one, but I wish I hadn't deleted a lot of them, because it'd even be better if I had 14. But anyway, and what I've started doing, they were all local, of course. Back when I was in Orange County, California, and so they were all just local. And what I would do is I would just have them all, if you know much about Orange County, I just, it's a wide area. So I would just schedule them, usually a Barnes and Noble. Remember things called bookstores? There used to be these things called bookstores. They don't exist anymore. But I would take Barnes and Noble, the cafeteria, and just meet there, and I would go to everywhere, north, south, east, west, around Orange County, and just drive them, and did that for a number of years. And you got the result that you got. Some people, very little engagement, to be honest. There was just not enough people to bring together to make a community. Most people, it was just like 1 person or 2 people. And the meditation groups who would do a Sunday morning meditation, and you get some people for that. And I just had the idea, why are we limiting this to in person? Why not do online? And at the time, I moved everything to online and started doing online meetups. This was around 09. Amazingly, yeah, it was around 2009. And it wasn't Zoom at the moment. It was TalkShoe, I think it was. And I immediately realized, oh, this is much easier. What I would do is I would just change the location. And back in 09, you could do it internationally. You could change the location of every one of the 9 groups that I had. I changed it to different locations, and actually different countries. They changed that very, very quickly. But I would go to, Australia and England and Brazil, and I managed to talk to some of them, and I realized, this is actually a lot better because you're meeting a lot wider people, and I think the conversations are a lot deeper, and I was a lot happier with that. Then they stopped. So you can't change your country anymore. You're limited to the country you're in. So now I have it isolated by time zones. So I have 3 that are in Pacific. I have 1 that's in Mountain. I have 3 that's in Central, and 3 that's in Eastern. And then every week I'm going to change the locale. So, I try to cover as many. There's the Wikipedia largest cities in America, and I just go through that list, that Wikipedia list of largest cities by population number, and just go through them. Week by week, I eventually cycle through the entire list of largest cities in America, and it's like 300 or so different large cities. And so eventually, I figure I'm going to hit a lot of them. And a lot of them are like suburbs of different larger cities. Yeah, but just now that this bringing us up to now, the situation hit around March, April, and there you couldn't do in-person meetups anymore. And I noticed that all the philosophy meetup groups around North America were coming together. And, that was a surprise to me, Seattle and Portland and New York and Toronto, and they were all joining together and merging together. And they started the thing, they're now calling it the Virtual Philosophy Network. And I joined in with them very quickly and realized that's what they're doing. They're merging and cross-posting each other's events. And so and I just realized, wow, that's great. And so now I'm cross-posting their events, and a number of them have allowed me to cross-post their events. And yeah, I've been really, really, really happy with the way this is going. And I think there's a lot of potential here. And I still think we could be doing more. I still think we could be doing better. I mean, it's great to have met you, great to have met Rem and everybody else. And I think there's a lot that's happening here, and we can actually get some stuff done. I've never been able to do any of the stuff that I've been doing. The graphic novel group, the Kenneth Smith conversation, the existentialism classes on Monday nights. I've been wanting to do those for years now, and I have never been able to get people who are interested enough to do this until now. So this has been a godsend for me. The fact that this stuff has been backed up for years. I've just been waiting for people who are interested enough to be able to go through this stuff. Now I can. And that's amazing to me that it took this to be the fire. Nobody was interested in it. We had like a couple of people who were regulars in the in-person group here now in Thousand Oaks, California, where I am. And, they came once or twice. And the Nietzsche thing was the first thing we went through. And we started with the Madman, like we're doing on Monday nights right now. And we went through the Madman. And the only thing she said was, "This is boring. I'm not interested. I don't like this. This is interesting." And I remember the first time this was the second time she was there. The first time she went, the first time that she was there, I said the same thing I say to every first timer. They come, they say, let me know what you're interested in. Let me know what you would like to cover. Let me know if you have any suggestions. Tell me your ideas. And I remember, I say this to everybody. And she said, "I'll be happy with anything. You choose. You choose. You choose. You can choose anything. Choose what you want. I'll be happy with anything." Okay, so I did. And then she was, "This is boring. I don't like this. I'm not interested in this. This isn't saying anything to me." And well, then you did have a preference. Then you did have an idea of what you wanted to cover. Why didn't you tell me? It's not that she was disagreeing. I don't mind if you disagree. But the first thing you have to do is engage with it and learn about it. And then you can disagree. She wasn't even engaging with it. She didn't want to engage with it. That's what I object with. I don't care if you disagree. That's fine. It's not that she disagreed. It's that she wasn't interested in actually approaching the material. That annoyed me.
This
She didn't
virtual
come back.
network you mentioned, is that on Meetup?
So I'm really, really glad that now I have the chance to go through all this great material, great stuff, and actually, I mean, my question to her, which I didn't ask, I'm trying to be polite, was, why did you join? Why did you join a philosophy meetup group if you're not interested in learning about philosophy? I didn't say that, but I wanted to.
Love your energy, David. You got it, mate. You have to write a book or something. Get it out of your system. Anyhow, question, please. Your virtual philosophy network, is that on Meetup?
I think that is virtualphilosophymeetup.com. I think that's the one. And if you go there, I think it'll give you all the information.
No, okay. Thank you.
I think.
Well, you got a lot of energy, David.
Maybe not.
So would you say the highlights of this experience has only really come out after the pandemic?
I think
it's some kind of silver lining.
This is really great. Actually, the thing of it is, because now we're doing philosophy. When I say it's not always been philosophy, at the moment I started all the different meetup groups, it was all different topics. Just a bunch of collection of stuff I was interested in. At that time in my life, I was very interested in alternative spiritualities, Buddhism, mysticism, occult, metaphysics, and I was really New Age stuff. I was really interested in all that for a lot of years, and I was just covering a lot of that, like Ken Wilber stuff and esoteric teachings, esoteric learnings, Gnosticism, Buddhism, metaphysics, meditation. And we were doing a meditation a Sunday morning group, which I was leading. And that we were doing that for a long time, just doing like the New Age stuff. And then we moved over to all being exclusively like personal growth, personal development, self-improvement stuff. I'm also interested in that stuff. And we did that, and that became the exclusive focus of this online group. Set goals and improve your life, and mind, body, and spirit, and improve in health, fitness, career, finances, that sort of thing. And that was another chunk of years. I think we did that for 9 years or so. And then just as soon as April, March, when I realized there was this opportunity now, then we're going to go exclusively to philosophy, because that's the only thing I'm interested in now. So the thing about the personal development, personal growth thing is, again, and probably predictably, very little engagement. You get people who come in once, and then that's it. They never come again. Over the years, over those 9 years of doing that, I think I must have talked to probably 400, 500, 600 different people. I tried to work it out sometime. I think I probably did. But, you talk to them for an hour one time, and that's it. They go away forever. Even though it seems like a great conversation, and that's just the way it is. When you're talking about personal growth and personal development, it's very, very difficult to get most people who are willing to actually do the work of improving their lives. But I've always thought I can't do very much harm in talking to people for an hour once, and I don't think I hurt anybody. Let's say that. But it was interesting, and we had some good conversations. The same thing, but the same thing there that I'm saying is there's a huge ongoing program that I can present to people, and just there were no takers. There were just nobody wanted to actually devote themselves to it. Well, I guess that would be predictable, because it's actual work. You have to actually do it. You have to actually, and sometimes that can be painful, and a lot of people, are there's a lot of resistance to that subconsciously, even if consciously they say, "Oh yeah, I'm on board." Well, no, they're not. I remember once talking to somebody, and it came up in the conversation while we were talking. And it was online only. There was no video. and it didn't come up and we didn't mention it at all, but I could tell just from hearing the audio, I could tell he was smoking. And that hit me. Yeah, Christopher, situation with you. But it hit me. Oh, that occurred to me. Oh, yeah, it's like an addiction. It's like an addiction. And it's as hard to quit as any addiction. To be able to reorient your life, that your life is going in a bad direction and you have to do this thing. But it's as hard of doing that as it is to quit smoking, as hard as it is to quit an addiction. I mean, it takes that amount of willpower, it takes that amount of strength. And that is why there's so very little addiction if you start promoting self-improvement. You get a very, very tiny percentage of people who are interested in actually doing it, because it takes that amount of, you gotta do it. And that's excruciatingly hard, as anybody who's tried to quit smoking will tell you, or quit a drug addiction. It's like an addiction to, or fear of success, and it's not anything conscious. Your conscious mind might be on board, but it's like the article you and I read, Christopher. It's the boys underneath. It's the subconscious mind, the shadow, that you got to get on board. And that's excruciatingly difficult. That takes inner work. That takes actual self-exploration. That's psychology. And that takes stuff going into areas that most people will not go to.
And it's uncomfortable. It causes a contraction in your gut. And that's why most people, like that lady you were describing, who didn't want to go to the Nietzsche conversation, she may be protecting something. I've learned one thing out of my years on the earth, that you don't make progress without discomfort. You really got to get into a sick, angry spot. I don't know if that's your experience, but I've done a few personal development courses, and amongst them is Landmark Education, which is an American. You've heard of it, have you?
Yeah, I knew a girl who was a part of it.
Yeah, I've known lots of people who went to Landmark, of course.
Yeah, I've done it. I did about half a dozen of their courses, and actually I got bucket loads out of it. But there's no question, eh?
It can be very beneficial for people if they take it right. It can be, yeah.
Yeah, but you got to be prepared to go the whole hog and get over all the reasons that you create in your head. And I think that's the big breakthrough for me, was to learn that if there is a discomfort, if there is a no, if you want to walk away, like that lady you were describing, who didn't want to go to this Nietzsche, there was something behind that she is protecting. And I've learned that the mind is incredibly sleazy. It actually protects you. You haven't got direct access to it, but you get the signs from it, from anger, discomfort, something.
That's the program that I'm talking about covers all of this. And we could go through that step by step. I mean, you have to get the boys underneath, the subconscious mind, the shadow. And without that component of it, all your efforts are meaningless. You'll never quit smoking. You'll never improve. Get in your your goals. It's just not going to happen, because the part of you that's resisting that is the part that's actually stronger, and it's going to it's going to sabotage all your efforts. But you have to get a hold of that, and there's ways to do it.
Yeah, and for that reason alone, there's no point going to a service provider, as a psychologist, psychiatrist, or any other body that needs to be paid, because they're going to moderate their approach, because they want you back as a customer, and you're not going to go back, until you feels. Did you feel like you're getting something out of it? And I think that's the great irony, that you really got to be locked in, like Landmark locked me in. Like as if it was a cult. Many people accuse it of being a cult, but it's bloody hard to get out of it. And I'm very, very thankful for the grip that they put on me, because it took me through some points of discomfort. It took me back to my days when I first came to Australia, the age of 7, before I learned to speak English. And by crikey, I got the sense of how my personality was shaped, but it didn't come easy. I didn't come without a fight, and they're still talking about me at Landmark 15 years on. Anyway, long time ago now. But I just found out of you, David, that's all.
Sorry. Y'all can't hear my dog snoring, can you? It's really loud to me, but I hope it's not. Okay. I just didn't know if that was coming through. Also, I'm just curious, is it Rem or Remco? do you prefer?
Yeah, you call me either. Either one will do.
R?
REM, Remco.
Remco?
Well, rapid eye movement. REM. Doesn't
Rem?
matter. I
Rem?
don't care.
Mostly.
Remco? Okay.
You call
There's a
me
band
anything.
called Rem.
Where,
REM.
Just call me Rem. Yeah, I don't care. The name is
Losing my religion.
Huh?
I like staying in the place where you are. That was my favorite as a little kid growing up. REM,
What?
Rem,
REM. Michael
Oh,
Stipe.
right.
Orange
Are
Crush.
they still around? I think they quit, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I should check it up, I guess.
I listen to their songs on YouTube still, so they're still around for me. But where do you hail from, Rem?
Oh, I was born in Holland, and at the age of 7, my parents took me to Australia. I think it was a mistake because I'm still a Dutchman, and by heart, they called me in my professional career. They used to, well, I've retired now, but they used to call me a typical arrogant Dutchman and a loose cannon. When I go to Holland on holidays, I'm home. You know, I'm a stranger in this country. I lived the whole of my life here. I got my grandkids here, even. But I'm still a Dutchman, and there's no question that there is an imprint, because I can pick a Dutchman. You know, there was a movie I watched, a German movie, and it was one of the actors, and I said to my wife, I said, that person, there's something about him. And I checked, I went and Googled it, and sure enough, he was a Dutchman. You know, he was speaking German fluently, but he had a mannerism. There's a way, there's an imprint. It's very deep. And I'm in touch with.
So I've got to ask you, the first person I've met who's identified as a Hollander. Is Holland technically not the Netherlands?
Not the Netherlands.
No, it's like Prussia. Prussia is a state of Germany. So to Holland, it's the largest state. It's a state and includes Amsterdam as its capital. But yeah, there's, I think there is, I can't remember, 7 or 9 states in the Netherlands, one of which is Holland. Okay. I was born in Holland, but yeah, so I still speak fluent Dutch. And when I'm there, you know, if I ask for directions, they answer me in English, you know, so obviously I've got a thick English accent. But, you know, it's that imprint. I'm fascinated by that imprint and the alter ego. And you know, I just tune into it, and I see what my parents have gone through, and how they protected themselves with their narratives, and how they justified remaining here. And look, sorry, that might all sound very meaningless, but yeah, personality is and who we are and who we're being and how we protect ourselves and things we say and the lies we say. And I think Nietzsche put his finger on it, but he said, lying to others is relatively rare compared to lying to yourself. And I thought, yes, so true, so very true. We lie to ourselves so much more than we lie to others. And I don't lie ever, but
well, it's so easier. It's so much easier to lie to yourself than it is to lie to others. You're the easiest person to lie to.
But you have to recognize it. You have to learn. You have to step beyond it. That's hard work. That's very hard work.
I always say you need 3 things. You've probably heard me say this before. You've both heard me say this before, right? The 3 things you need: Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. You've heard me say this before, right?
Yeah.
No matter what it is you're trying to do, anything at all, what you're trying to do, you need 3 things: Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. You need to first do the homework, do the scholarship, do the reading, whatever it is. You're going to have to put the information in your skull on a cognitive level. Put the information. People skip that part, actually. You know, do your homework. You know, learn about it on a scholarly level. Put the information on an intellectual level. Do the reading. You got to do your homework. That's number 1. Number 2 is you can't do it alone. You got to have other people. You got to have other people to talk about it with because it's bigger than you are. You need to have a group. You need to have a team. People who can guide you. You know, people who know the lay of the land, who have been there before, who understand the subject matter, and can guide you through obstacles and roadblocks, and be able to see. They can see your blind spots that you can't see. They can see when you're on it. You think you're making progress, but they say someone who you can trust, who knows what they're talking about, you say, okay, you think you're getting somewhere, but really you're going in circles here. You see, oh, you're on a treadmill here. You're not getting anywhere. Hey, this is a problem. You know, that's outside perspective is invaluable. You can't dispense with that because you're too close to it. You can't see your own blind spots, and you're too susceptible to your own lies. You need somebody who can call you on your stuff, somebody who knows what they're talking about, somebody who can, oh, you're interested in this feedback. You're interested. Here's something you might be interested in, something you might want to pay attention to. If you're going to go in this direction, you might want to watch out for this. That a Sherpa, somebody who can guide you, that's invaluable. You'll spend a lot of years going down blind alleys and cul-de-sacs without that. You need a team. Get your team together, whatever it is you're trying to do. And the third one is, I think, so obvious, I don't even need to say it. I don't even need to say, what is it? The third one.
The Sangha?
So obvious.
There was the Buddha Dharma Sangha. You already said the community. You already said so is it the Buddha?
It's so obvious. Wasn't it? It's okay. It's not enough to just read about it. It's not enough to just talk about it. You got to do it. You got to do it. You can't just read about it. You can't just talk about it. You got to do it.
I think the challenge, David, I think the big challenge is... People skip
that one.
Yeah, I agree. But I say the big challenge is that if you're like me and you're a bit of a D, on the DISC scale, determined, and you've got a reasonable brain, you will create a story why something that is being said to you is dismissed, or when you're exposed to a situation, you will not go down there because that's, I love Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And in system one, you can't see your system. That's basically what you were saying, David. That system one is invisible to you. And that's your point. You have to have somebody else because you cannot see yourself. Like you can see me, but I can't see me. And I can see you, but you can't see yourself. But there is a system two that backs you up. And I like to call that system two the sycophant, because the sycophant will back you up. And if you challenge me, I've learned now, but a few years ago, if you challenge me, my sycophant will click in and would just simply dismiss you. I'd create a story around why something that you just said as an insightful contribution. But if it didn't suit me, that's system two. Did you guys read Daniel Kahneman's book?
Yeah.
Yeah, great book,
very
isn't
popular.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Badly written.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, sorry, go on.
No, I love that book. It really tied together a lot of different fields for me. They're research psychologists. It was Eamon Tversky, I think, and Daniel Kahneman. They worked together before and did a lot of their papers together. I really like what they do. They bleed from research psychology into like behavioral economics, and so I like that you brought it up because I was thinking of Dan Ariely. I haven't read his books yet, but he's got the honest truth about dishonesty, But I've seen some of his talks and I've seen some related fields. But basically, so I don't believe in a truth. Like I think the truth can be a very convenient metaphor, but it has its limits. It's not a real object. There is no like the truth. Another guy, George Lakoff, in one of his books, worded a little like rule of thumb that helped me kind of understand. He called so he uses the definition for honesty, and he says that honesty is when you believe in what you're saying and you're trying to help. If it's just one or the other, you're not necessarily being honest. You can believe in what you're saying, but not be trying to help someone. You might be, you might not have the right intention. You can want to help someone, but you might be giving them a white lie, or like, oh yeah, you look good in that dress tonight, or, porcupines' quills do fly off, so stay far away from them, or even though that's not true. So I like honesty because to me, it's not mutually exclusive with deception or what we might call lies. So first, I think that our projection of reality, our model, is a kind of distortion. It's a projection. It's a hologram. It's not a complete all. It has no direct contact with reality. It's an interpretation our brain's putting together from a bunch of different impulses. So on one level, we only have the most useful fiction our unconscious components can give us at any given moment. But that doesn't preclude us from being honest with one another. But even when it comes to honesty, there's a certain like artistic skill to it. Some people are more articulate than others. Some people can get to the point better or whatever. And so there's, even within the framework of honesty, there's still a lot of deception, self-deception, in yourself and in the receiver. And so like one lady, I can't remember, it was a TED talk and I don't remember her name, but she was saying, I think we need to work on having more honest lies, telling ourselves and each other more honest lies, because I just, I don't know. I don't see, I think there is malicious falsehoods, and I think there's innocent falsehoods. Plenty of people honestly pass on false information that, they were just naive to accept and never check on, So I don't know. It's an interesting thing for me because a lot of people, I feel like when they're talking about, so I kept thinking for the things that y'all were talking about, people trying to get out of their comfort zone, you got to put in work. Like if there's no pain, there's no gain, So it, so someone in one of the last talks we were talking to was using the idea that one way of getting outside of ourselves, or like adding more perspective to our limited projection or model or whatever, is to try to see from the perspective of, say, like ancient Greek culture, which I do think works. I think anytime you're seeing something from something outside of yourself, especially something that takes work to, this is not my conventional normal way of seeing and operating in the world. But I guess I feel like you've got more to gain the harder it might be, or the less popular it might be, or the more taboo, or you know what I mean? Basically, the more the harder or more painful the task, the more rewarding it potentially could be. Not necessarily always. Sometimes I think there's plenty of just, that was a lot of work and that hurt and nothing good to show for it. But just, so I don't know. I've been thinking about voting. How I make sure to say that I don't vote because I like to keep a certain amount of fairness with the people that I talk to. It's worth it more to me to be able to maintain relations with people on both sides of the political spectrum. But I find it interesting that there's people on both sides that find it a lot easier to, say, relate to a different culture than it is to relate to people of the opposite political position. That it's really uncomfortable for people. I notice a lot of people really don't want to go through the effort of trying to see things from see things from the other side, and sincerely try to see, people would obviously vote for this guy or that guy because they have good reasons in their mind, and it's painful and it's a lot of work, and I think a lot of people aren't willing to go through that to, I don't know, expand their mind, or they're, I don't know. I know the direction I was going, and I trust y'all know it. I don't know. I don't want to go too far off on it.
I have an idea of going through, because all these issues that you've been talking about, and Rem, you and I have actually talked, with QAnon, we've talked about these issues, and there's a lot to cover here. But to me, all of this makes perfect sense, perfect, complete sense. It all makes perfect sense, and I'm trying to figure out, is there any way I can convey that to other people? But there is a way, but no one recommendations. I mean, I have to read or watch. But if you did, I think you'd understand. Ken Wilber would be on that list. Ken Wilber would be on that list. But so, there's like 4 or 5 other things that I think if you read these people or watched these things that I'm talking about, I think you'll understand. Why is there so much conflict? Why is there so much, disagreement and everything that's been going on? I'm considering how to get together an ongoing group where we cover the things that I have in my mind. Because I think once you get them in downloaded and installed on your hard drive, so to speak, you'll understand. Those questions can be answered.
Yeah, I think that needs a bit of teasing out, because my red flags are going up everywhere when you're talking like that. Because are you taking us into the cognitive zone, or are you taking, because there's no question that there is an external cognitive zone that's protecting me and protecting most people, and the rationale. Sorry, I don't want to diminish it, but it is important. I want to get back to what Christopher was talking about. To me, I think there is a number one issue at stake that really needs to be addressed. And I think Christopher was hinting at it. And he talked about a lady on TED. Was that by chance Brené Brown, Christopher?
No, I've seen 2 of her TED Talks. It wasn't Brené Brown. It was another. I think she was a behavioral economist like Dan Ariely. I'll look it up real quick, and if I can find it, put the link.
Doesn't matter. The point I want to make is that I'm crystal clear, and it'll take a lot to shift me, is that the most fundamental thing to really get in touch with yourself is a vulnerability, which is Brené Brown's main thesis, is to be totally vulnerable, to totally be indifferent to the situation, and to be in total integrity with yourself. Until you get that, then anything else can remain in the cognitive zone. That's my experience. And so you can do all the books, and do all the stuff, all the reading, until you get integrity. When you get into that place of total vulnerability, where you don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks of you, then, only then do you get to a place of making any progress. That's my experience.
Well, so I was thinking, I worked at a gym, and what David was saying earlier about how a lot of people would just get into the chat for a little bit. You'd have an hour talk and it'd be a good talk, but you don't see them anymore. They weren't willing to put in the work, go through a program. I worked at a gym. I worked at a couple gyms. First off, because it's one of the few jobs you can get paid to read at, depending on the gym. Like a lot of people that read a lot, they say, I want to work at a bookstore. Like, no, you're going to be working all the time with books. You don't get to read them. Like a gym, anyways. So most people would sign up, go for a few sessions, maybe a couple weeks, and stop coming. They might continue their payments for a few months, thinking, well, okay. Most gyms make most of their money off of people that don't show up more than a few times. Like of all of the gyms that I've worked at and people I've talked to at other gyms, they're like, yeah, like especially at New Year's, the New Year's resolution, that's when all the business comes in, and over the next few months, they all cancel their memberships or whatever. But the reason I brought that up, there's got to be something. It has to be rewarding. It has to meet some need of a person, even though they might consciously tell themselves, I want to get in shape, or I can put up with the pain and it'll be worth it or whatever. It actually has to, after they feel the burn once or twice, feel rewarding afterwards. If it isn't rewarding, a lot of people, because I think it's a mix of both mindset and like a deep intrinsic need, that if it doesn't get met for them, they don't get hooked. And I think there's plenty to say about what factors you could change in a person's life to warm them up to getting hooked onto that inner work. I do think it has a lot to do with vulnerability, but I think part of the vulnerability is it's got to be worth it to someone. I think a lot of people just don't simply think like, what will I get out of eating green eggs and ham? Like, I don't want to try that. I don't want to think about something different. Like what I've got, it works. It's good enough. So one thing I think is interesting about this medium, and I and a few others have said, is that you already have, even though there might be some interesting characters that might detract from whatever progress conversationally, or maybe exhausting to listen to, for the most part, everyone's joined up. They've already qualified themselves in a lot of ways of being interested in like reworking, improving their model of reality, which I think the metaphor of working out and putting work in, I mean, yeah, sorry. I see y'all looking
The
at that.
the program that I'm talking about covers all this. It talks about all of this, how to get, like we were talking about, how to get the unconscious mind on board. And until you do that, you're not going to get anywhere. But yeah, we cover that. It's involved in there. It's hard work. It's difficult work. It takes a while. It's not an overnight thing, but anybody could do it.
So I do think that there is a decent amount of wiggle room when it comes to personal improvement in life.
I
And I
have
feel
to
like,
I have to feed my cat. I'm sorry.
oh, that's okay.
You can keep going.
Well, okay, so I think I found it's called Honest Liars: The Psychology of Self-Deception. I'll try to get a link up for you in chat. Courtney Warren, I think her name is. But yeah. But those were just references. I was just I don't necessarily believe in a truth. You know, I believe we can expand our base of ignorances and biases, but that we can't necessarily ever be like objective. You know, we'll never be omniscient. There's no like the truth, like aha, now I know it, and it's I can put it in my pocket and forget about it. You know, that's one of the problems I think with objectifying the metaphor of truth as a thing, because it makes you think it's a complete thing, whereas in like reality, the metaphor translated into reality, there's always something more. There's always something more to learn. You know, there's always something else. Like I don't know if you've seen Charlie Wilson's War. There's a metaphor of the ball keeps on bouncing. You know, got the neighboring village says they're going to war with our village. You know, the boy in town is told, "Oh, you got to sign up for war." He gets ready for war. Ah, damn it, I can't. I wish I need to come up with the the Charlie Wilson quote. But basically, it's everyone says, "Oh, it's a good thing you're not going to go to war. You're too young." And they say, "Oh, but because you're too young, you've got to do this work." Oh, that's too bad. You know. Oh, now that it's too bad, I'll think of a better example. Okay. Because it has to do with context. But there's always a larger context. So that's one of my big problems with there's no like one conclusive total truth. So like a guy's flying in an airplane, right? The engine goes out, but it's okay. He's got a parachute. So he jumps out of the airplane, but the parachute won't work. You know, that's okay though, because there's a bale of hay down at the bottom. But what do you know? There's a pitchfork in the bale of hay. So like every time you think it's conclusively a good or a bad thing, there's always more to it. So just
You know, I was just listening to both of you, and I guess I continue to have you know, this feeling like it's all very well to have done all the reading and all of the stuff that you talk about and talking about whether there is a truth or not. But I think the ultimate thing is getting to who you really are, to be totally in truth yourself. And that is beyond the cognitive. And I always remember the time I visited a monastery in Ladakh, which is on the border of India and Tibet. And I was in that monastery there, and some Westerners walked in, and they talked for some time. And then after they'd gone, the monk said to me, he said, "You know, all these Westerners know more about Buddhism than I do. They know more about it than I do, but they're not being it." And so they're totally trapped in the cognitive, and so much that you know, that I read and I hear people talk, and they just got somebody signaling something. David, you tell me.
I'm saying Buddha, Dharma, Sangha.
Oh, okay.
All three.
Yeah.
We just covered this. You have to read about it. You have to you have to have other people in the community, and you have to do it. All three. People only read about a subject or only read and talk about a subject and never actually do it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Exactly that.
Yeah, how to get there though. How to know
That's
it.
the point. That's what it is. The word is integral.
Mm.
All components, all quadrants. We talked about the quadrants before.
Yeah.
We talked about this. Yeah, and you made that same sound. You made that same moan the last time. Here it is. See, right there. Interior, exterior, individual, collective, and interior, individual, shadow work, emotional processing, journalism, meditation, fear. Exterior, body, physical health and fitness. Interior of the collective, spirit, interpersonal relationships, and exterior collective, mind, career, and finances. That's all four right there. Mind, body, and spirit.
Mm.
Yeah, and you make those same sounds every time I bring this up.
Okay, I guess I'm still dealing with it. You know, when I came to Australia, my first thing my parents did was change my name. I was Ronald for about 40 years. I was Ron, and it was all part of the attribute, you know, to make me Aussie. It was the whole of my life I spent my time as a chemical engineer because I was an immigrant lad and I needed to make money. I was going to make good. And I realized that the whole of my life I lived in order to life. And in order to, everything was done in order to make money or in order to get, I got to number one in my field. I got very prominent in my field, but I realized how inauthentic I was. And that's why I changed my name back. And I guess that's why I'm a bit feisty about it, a bit entrenched, because I see myself, I'm talking about myself, my own journey through life and the falseness and the huge cost it had. And all the things I did throughout life was all phony and fake. And you know, that's why, you know, now at the age of 72 today, I suddenly sort of realized, well, I had that awakening about 15 or so years ago, and I just realized, and I think, well, shit, how many other people are like me around there, going around blah, 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 and then not realizing that, you know, that it's just blah.
I'll be right back.
Well, what if there's nothing more than the realization that it's just blah?
You've got to get there. That's the thing. You've got to get.
But what happens when you get there? What if everything's just blah? But then what? What when you get there? When everything's just blah, then what? Like what do you do in a blah world?
That's when you begin to live, mate. That's when you begin to live. That's when you can really, really sort of say, you don't give a fuck about the world. I don't give a fuck about you. I don't give anything about anybody. And at that point, magic begins to happen.
So
yeah, that's it.
So look, I agree with the spirit of what you're saying. And I think it's related to what you're saying earlier about being vulnerable. You need to be kind of indifferent to a degree. So I agree with what you're saying. With the spirit of what you're saying, I don't know. It reminds me of the one thing I think that ties like Nietzsche together. You know, it's he's God in the will to power. He says my first solution is Dionysian wisdom. You know, he says it like the way I read it. I mean, I can even read it just to make sure I'm not terribly misquoting it. But he talks about being a destroyer. You know, joy in the destruction of the most noble, and at the sight of its progressive ruin. In reality, joy in what is coming and lies in the future, which triumphs over existing things. So, like, I read this as like, okay, I've overcome the stupid worldviews of this guy and that guy, and what's coming, what's going on now. I even see what's coming, and I know that that's going to be destroyable and pick apartable. And so I'm reveling in the fact that like I'm a destroyer of all the blah, you know, that comes my way. So, well, at that point, he's using blah as like a material to like transmute from, you know, something boring and dull and lead and heavy to something like gold and shiny, you know. So like the blah, I don't know. I feel like you still need to do something with the blah. Like it takes work to transform blah into gold or awesomeness. You know,
no, you don't. Let it be. Just let it be. The blah is just history. That's just a narrative you tell yourself. And if you say it often enough, you'll believe it. No need. Give it up. All of this structural nonsense. There's so much absolute, you know, all of these wisdoms out there. I even mentioned Kahneman. Yes, it is my favorite book because it gave me a release, but it's still, I have to put it in the past. I have to put it in the past. Otherwise, you just lock yourself up. You sound very erudite. You sound very confident. You got all the right answers. You impress others, and you're not being it.
Well,
I'm not directing it to you, Richard, Christopher, but I'm just making a sweeping generalization.
no, the way you used you did not. I didn't feel it was a personal.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
No. Well, in a few of the Zoom meetups, the you did feel very personal. Don't worry. You're
okay. Good. Thank you.
you're being received fine. You're in good company. Well, I guess I would counter with this. I would say that telling yourself just let it be. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. It's all blah. Is work. Letting go can be a kind of work. If your hand has been holding on to and seized onto a certain set of whatever structural blah for long enough, it takes work to uncramp your seized, still living rigor mortis hand that's stuck on whatever blah. So it's even letting go and letting be is a kind of work. Like in Taoism, I think they would call it Wu Wei. The work of I've got quibbles with the term being, even though I know the spirit you're coming from. I feel like it's another way of saying allowing your unconscious to do what it can take care of better than trying to worry about things actively, cognitively all the time. I feel like more than being, I think of the word grace. Like when you don't have the conscious, like, cognitive awkwardness of trying to figure things out all the time because it's all blah, right? I like the word grace. I'm not trying to use it in a religious sense, but it isn't only a religious word. It's you're not out of sync with what is anymore. So you're back in the flow of things. So I don't know. I feel like that is a kind of work. You know what I'm saying?
My greatest curse in life, Christopher, is I was endowed with a good brain, and that was my greatest curse. I'll tell you, because I analysed everything to death. I got all my degrees. I got several. I got including a master's in business admin. I did all the right things in life. I studied things. I pre-planned. I planned and structured and analysed everything to death. I knew that wasn't going to work, and it's an amazing, it's sort of to wake up to that and to realise that you become a slave to your narrative. And that's when part of the landmark release that I had in 2005 is that I flew to India just on impulse because I'd visited there. Did I tell you the story, David, my first visit to India? In case, look, I don't want to repeat. I lost my who mentioned it to. But anyway, the point I want to make is, Christopher, is that in 2007, I flew to India not knowing a soul over there. And I started a movement, and it's still bubbling along. My Clean India. I started a movement, and it's gone through quite a few cities. And when I was there in November, I've been driven around in Prime Minister Modi's car and with flags and armed guards. I mean, I'm not trying to impress you, but what I'm trying to say is you can do anything, but you've got to get rid of your blah. You just got to be present to the moment and just be it. And you've got to get to that space, and that's hard work. But once you're there, you don't think, you just do. And I think that's the liberating place. If you can stop trying to impress people with one's knowledge and all the structures and all the qualifications and justifications and backups and other narratives, it's all blah. You just got to get past that blah. It's hard work, but once you're there, then you just move through life, and it's yeah.
Well, I do agree. I take
results.
this. What's that?
I said I look at results.
You look at results.
If you're getting results that you like, then keep doing what you're doing. If you're not getting results that you like, then change what you're doing.
Well, I take personally what you say, Remco, in a good way. Not personally, like I am going through right now. So I had the chance to look at myself talking, like because these get uploaded to Twitch, and I got a chance to see myself from my own perspective and judge myself and be able to see my blind spots and my habitual, I'm not conscious of how much of an asshole I'm being. And so everything that you're saying rings really true to me, because I do think I have a lot of second natured, I'm not even trying to be pretentious, but I am, I'll try too hard. I'll try to be more articulate than I need to be, or actually am, and misuse my words.
Yeah, but I don't know, and perhaps you can tell me. I don't know why anybody says, well, actually, I mean, I do. Of course I do. Why pretentious is a bad thing. Can you explain it?
I think it sets up false expectations.
Pretension is exceeding your grasp. And what's wrong with that? That's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's how you get better. What is wrong with pretension?
Because there's no such thing.
Like just
you're trying to get better. You're grasping
thing,
something that's outside of your purview. That's outside of your reach.
Well, I think
that's growing. That's growth.
Well, I think you can grasp for it without pretending to it. Like to fight your way to the throne is different than being a pretender to the throne. So like the Heidegger group that I joined in on, I really wanted to say something that I thought would be relevant, but I knew that it would be pretentious because I would be pretending to know that it was relevant to the Heidegger discussion. But I haven't read Heidegger yet. I just recently acquired a new copy of Being in Time, and I will get to it in a meaningful amount of time. But it's just, I know that I would be.
You don't need to.
I know that I would be out of my depth. I would be taking on more of a burden than I was competent to follow through with. And also I might be leading others on to the expectation that I'm more competent than I really am.
Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Don't do it alone. Get other people to guide you. You don't need to read Being in Time. All you need to do is go through the classes that we went through on Monday nights. Go through each one of those Matt Calarco lectures, and you're done. That's all you need. You can do that. You could do that in a week if you wanted to. You don't actually need to read Being in Time, because by the end of the book, Heidegger admits that the whole project was a canard. It was just a meth. He's asking the question of what it means to be. He's not actually answering that question. The point is just to ask the question. The point is just, it's a method to get you to a new way of thinking, to re-comprehend society and civilization, yourself and life and everything. But there's no real answer at the end of the book. So, you're going to waste your time. All you need is just cover those lectures that we covered on Monday night, and you're done. You're done with Heidegger. And I'm the one who's telling you that. That's my point, is if you're going to do this alone by yourself without talking to me about it, then you would have wasted your time. I'm telling you, you can do it much, much quicker, and you don't need to read Heidegger, because ultimately Heidegger is not one of the ones you need to cover. Ultimately, he's not. You need to get that insight of understanding what Heidegger was saying, but you can do it much quicker and much easier than reading Being in Time. And you would not have known that if you hadn't have talked to me right now. That's part of the community part of the Sangha part of those three jewels. You have to have all three.
So I haven't thought about this for like a week. Like it was a little over a week ago, after the last time I believe I was in on one of the open forums. I really, after I rewatched the video, because it really hit me hard about being pretentious. Just that I saw that I feel like a lot of times when I want to explain something, I can do it in just a few little sentences, or maybe 2 paragraphs or so. But I noticed that the metaphor that popped in my mind was, there's a 3-foot creek and I'm building a mile-long bridge to cross it. And I felt like it was because I wasn't being relaxed. I was being pretentious. Yeah. I had anxiety about trying to fit in and impress others, which really, the second I dropped the goal of trying to impress others and thought, these are idiots just like me, it
gets better. It gets better.
Yeah.
You'll get the hang of it. You just keep at it. But I think that comes with time.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I get what you're saying. Well, there's a version of pretension where it's fake it till you make it, and you're
Yeah.
not going to learn to fly without flapping your wings, even if
Yeah.
you don't, even if you don't have liftoff right away. You know. Well, I think it ties back to what I was saying about grace. So grace to me is like, okay. So grace. I don't know if you've heard the models. There's the 4 stages of mastery, right? There's unconscious incompetence, which is you don't know how much you suck. You know. Then there's conscious incompetence. You realize, oh my God, I suck this much. This is where I'm really at. And then after practicing, you get conscious competence. Then you're conscious that you're doing a good enough job. And once you're consciously competent, then you begin to develop unconscious competence, which I think comes with the grace, with relaxing into you got this, you know. So I feel like when you say we should just learn to be, I feel like people have different subjective distances or criteria of how much they need to master before they can say, all right, I can let this go. You know, whether it's I finally got there or this isn't worth it and just give up, or you get what I'm saying? So I feel like each individual who pursues a path of trying to figure things out and eventually realizes, you know what, no one's got it fucking figured out. I might as well just work with my level of stupidity and do the best I can. You know, I think it's different for each person. You know, some people, I don't know, are stabbed deeper than others for the hunger for figuring it all out or whatever.
I would say, again, I look at results. You see, and you need to, that's what setting goals means. What is the end goal? What's the victory condition? You know, where's the goal is? What's the target of the bullseye that you're looking for? If you don't have that, you know, what's the end game? What's the checkmate? What's, you know, where are you going? Are you just playing? You can't play chess just by moving the pieces around. You have a goal in mind. There's a point to the game. What's the result? What's the end result? Maybe it is writing a book. Maybe it is. You know, what's the result?
What is it for you, David? May I ask?
The shoes on the other foot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had ideas about writing a book. Yeah, they're kind of, but nothing definite. If you, yeah, no, I totally take your question very seriously, and I don't have a ready answer for it, and that's the truth. I guess, I guess, yeah, I would still be looking for it, but everyone's answers to that is going to be different. But yeah, I'm still kind of in that process. I take your question very seriously.
So I believe in
considering.
So I believe in results. What was it? What was that last part?
Oh, sorry.
For some people, it might be writing a book. For some people, it might be just understanding, just having the concept of understanding. You know, having other people to guide you. That's what part of the other people part of this is. If you have a role model, somebody who you look up to and say, you know what, that's my goal. I would love to be like that guy or that girl, and say that I would like to be in that same rank, that same level that they're at. And maybe that could be a goal for some people.
So to me, that's when you say Buddha, you know, Dharma, Sangha, to me, that's the Buddha. It's the role model. You have to see
Sangha.
What's that?
Sangha, community.
Yeah, well, Buddha was a person in addition to being a state that we attempt to achieve through equanimity. And
yeah, Sangha is the path of community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dharma is the path of action, and Buddha is. No, wait, do I have that right? I think Buddha is action, practice. Yeah, and Dharma is the I don't know anymore. But I think, yeah, it's the scholarship part. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess I was just getting at, I don't feel like there's a community without leadership, and not necessarily like a single leader, but there are others that do more work attempting to keep a community together, to like, if there were a race, you know, the person who's farthest along in the race, you know, if it were like a dojo, the best student is obviously the master. It's demonstrable, you know. So because he's in the lead in
Okay.
accomplishing the goal of learning, you know, there's always a kind of leadership. So I feel like
Yeah.
Buddha encompasses that role model aspect of, if we can't,
Ideally, it would. Yeah.
well, like if we can't see the goal directly ourselves, but when we look at a person, say the goal is the sun, right? Or our lodestar, or the whatever you want to call it. If we can't see it for ourselves, but when we look at a person, we see the direction they're going in, and we can see what our goal is through that person who is an example of the results. You know, you can
That's right.
tell, you can tell that they believe in their product because they get high on their own supply, that it's good stuff. You know, you can tell that the seeds bear good fruit. You know, uh, well,
Ideally.
well. So I guess if we're talking about the star, or the lodestar, or the sun, or whatever, you know, the light that's the goal, I feel like it's inevitably going to be, even because I'm results oriented as well. I like the term feedback, even though that often means a tangible, concrete goal. But I feel like it's intrinsic, and that ultimately, to some degree, it is ineffable because it requires what you were talking about as the obvious, even though it wasn't obvious to me what obvious we were talking about at the moment. But just that, the thing I like about talking about the ineffable as like the ultimate goal, purpose, or reality, or whatever, is that it's something that you have to do. It's ineffable because you can't just talk about it. You know, talking the talk isn't walking the walk, even though talking sometimes may be a part of the walk. You know what I'm saying? So like, you, it's ineffable because you have to do it, and until you do it, until you've experienced the results of it, we're just talking about something. If you haven't been there, if you haven't tasted and seen, yes, the water is good and it provides life. So
Buddha
I
Dharma
guess I
Sangha.
just feel like
Yeah.
it's something intrinsic. We can say that possibly these meetings are an extrinsic, concrete example of us taking steps in that direction. Writing a book may be a step in that direction, but that it's not the end in itself. You know, does that make sense?
I think I'm following you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, so when I think of the goal, because on some level, I always think of homeostasis. You know, on a simple biological level, we're maintaining homeostasis. But homeostasis doesn't just mean biological. You can talk about in a dysfunctional family, you know, this person might take on certain symptoms of some, you know, personality disorder because it's a way of negotiating the dynamic of a family or a group that they're stuck in to maintain what they call homeostasis. You know, they call it the familial homeostasis. So I think on the, if we're getting into like deeper levels of not just what do I do to keep myself alive, but maintain a community, but also there's plenty of communities, you know. There's Magic the Gathering communities. There's you know, there's Krav Maga and CrossFit communities. There's, you know what I mean? So if we're talking about ultimate goal of life kind of community, I don't know, I feel like it adds another ultimate direction to the what homeostasis can mean on like the level of like Buddhahood. To maintain Buddhahood, to be integrated with the greater reality, the eternal reality, right? To be in a state of oneness with that is a higher order of homeostasis, you know? So I don't know. It's one word that I feel like encompasses levels from, you know, concrete and physical to
Mm.
the lofty, the spiritual, the ideal. You know, I don't know. I was just throwing out that word. If you're asking what our goal is, that's a word I play with a lot. You
Yeah,
know,
it sounds like you're just saying, we have to arrive, you know, climbing the mountain is one thing. Getting to the peak of the mountain is one thing. That's one thing. Just that you're there on top, you put your flag down and you look around and say, "Here I am. I'm here." Okay, that's one thing. It's another thing to build a house there and live
Yep.
there for the rest of your life. Is that
Well,
what you're saying? There's
yeah.
two different things.
Well, a house, I think Jesus said, and I'm totally butchering it, you know, a house built high on a hill with strong walls around it can't be taken down, you know? Well, because I think that's one of the goals of like Buddhism, Stoicism, is to have a kind of emotional and even epistemological resilience, to have that fortress that reality can't sneak up on. It's put in a in an advantageous position to.
I think I get you. I think I get what you're saying. But yeah, I mean that just comes about with time, and it does help to be in the community. That people who are exactly what you want to be, join them, and you'll be like them in time.
Well, I don't think. Well, I guess that's where I was getting at with saying like there's Magic the Gathering and there's CrossFit or whatever other kind of communities.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily enough. Like I think it's important that you said there's the three things, because there's communities that aren't necessarily based on the Buddha, but may have their own practice that they put into action and be a community. For example, Nazis. You know,
Fine.
like not Nazis, our community. Any loner out there with radical racist, you know, pro-white Germanic ideas might
Well,
be.
wait a minute. Was there some misunderstanding here? I didn't say. I didn't mean just join a community, any community randomly. That's not what I meant.
Well, I don't think you meant it that way. I guess I was just saying it to be explicit of where.
No, I meant if you want to be this higher level person, let's say at people at level 8, you find a community of people who are level 8ers, and that'll bring you up to level 8.
Okay,
That's what I was saying.
This is beautiful. It ties back to what I was thinking of before you walked away, maybe the last time or the time before. I don't remember.
Yeah, how complicated is it to feed a cat? You'd be surprised. Don't get me started.
Well, so
it's an ongoing process.
So I don't think everyone is capable of reaching every level. Okay. I think there's.
Okay, I could go along with that.
I think there are individual differences and limitations that are a mix of uncontrollable intrinsic factors and also, you know.
Okay, I'll go along with that to a point, but I think you're good. I think you could make a little bit too much of that.
Well, I think so. So there's the idea of like,
what's it going to gain you meditating on that one too long?
Well, if
don't,
you're trying
don't
to
argue for your limitations, man.
Well, if you've seen the glory of the top of the mountain and you want to share it with others, not everyone's capable of making it to the top of the mountain.
I'll go along with that.
I do think everyone is capable of taking steps on the path on the mountain. And I do think the mountain is big enough for everyone and everything to live on.
I'll agree.
Okay. Well, so
yeah.
So and I like I wasn't planning on trying to start a community on here. If anything, I was looking for what you were doing. You know, I found it. I was like, this this hits the spot. This is what I was looking for. So like I was talking about this with Ivan too, the last talk I had with him, how I was saying, so if I were to build a community, I always think of it in the terms of I like the word dojo. You know, there's a dojo. Like everyone is welcome into the dojo, but some people are better psychic martial artists than others, and you shouldn't fight with people that are too far above you or out of your league. You know what I mean? Because it's like Jordan Peterson talked about how there's really highly intellectual people, and just most people are boring and mediocre to them, and it's exhausting to constantly explain what you mean to people. but there's others, there's mediators, some people might be better or have more patience.
Napoleon Hill called it a mastermind group. And Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, which is a book everybody should read. He called it the mastermind group. When I say the word community, I don't just mean, anybody. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. A mastermind group. That's what I kept stressing. Trusted people who know what they're talking about, people who are not going to lead you astray, not just your friends, not just your family, unless they are in that same rank that you're talking about, but be very discriminating about who you let into your mastermind group. You have to have the people who you can trust are not going to lead you astray, who are going to be able to use skillful means to make sure you're going to get where you need to get. And that takes discrimination and judgment, not just obviously I think I understand exactly what you're saying. Obviously most people is a very, very elite, restrictive a number of people who are going to be qualified to be able to get you where you need to get to. Yeah, and you need to be smart enough to know that.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of my goals. Like, if I were to get into this more, that's something I would try to. So, like, I love the format of these open forums because, like, I've told you I got into this because I read The Art of Community, and one of the things he stresses about it. You might be interested in reading it if you want. It's an easy read. It's a light read. It talks about different principles. There's the inner circle principle, there's the temple principle. Like this Zoom conference weekly or somewhat regularly could be considered a kind of online temple, where people of common interest get together to do the sacred activity, and well, he talks about there's an outer circle and an inner circle. Like, of course, the leaders who are doing the most work to keep the community together, to keep everyone going to the peak of the mountain, right? That there's an outer circle where you have room for visitors. You get to get fresh meat, fresh blood in, like, oh yeah, this person's got something interesting, something valuable to offer, and it's also a way to weed out, not necessarily to completely exclude, but to say, okay, this person seems to have something, even though they might agree externally, this is the goal of things, they tend to detract more from it than others. You can still keep inviting them back to visitors night, and you give everyone a chance to practice their patience, unless of course they're just completely disruptive. But you know what I'm saying? So there's like levels, and the more you feel each other out, because it's got to be about personal relationships. Like, that's one thing about community to me, is like, I think a lot of people confuse it with like collectivism, maybe, which I do think it is a kind of collective. The more organized it can get, the more possibilities there are for like collective bargaining or whatnot. But really, a community is made up of individuals. It's about a communion between at least two people, and yeah, I'm interested in making an intentional community along the lines of something like this.
I would love to. It's very difficult, and that's what I keep saying. I'm kind of seeing how we could do this in a more conscious way, and I'm not clear yet how to do it. I'm kind of feeling my way through it. I think there's potential here, but yeah, I'm fine. I do find what we've been doing with these discussions valuable, and they're very cool. But I think we could be doing more. A community is what I'm agreeing with you. Somehow getting that kind of mastermind group. But
yeah, well, I don't think you can work out too many of the details ahead of time.
Yeah.
So a gang or a secret society doesn't know what its secret handshake or flag is going to look like the second the first, 4 or 5 people get together and say, yeah, let's meet up weekly, or, let's go out and do something or whatever, like Fight Club. I'm sure it took a month or two of fighting regularly, doing what was intrinsically rewarding for everyone involved before they finally
Well,
said,
right now, what I'm thinking is what I really want is people who actually understand these things that I'm talking about, people who understand, uh, you know, well, the societal social criticism and our cultural moment, not just so I can have somebody to talk to, because whenever I bring this stuff up, nobody knows what I'm talking about, but there's that, but also see if, what can be done. The first thing we have to do is understand what's going on. And I find that first step to be really, really difficult, because even people like you guys, there's still, have so many questions. Why is this happening? And when I say this, I mean the whole of it, you know, uh, you know, uh, but I think that we could be doing a lot better in answering that question to start with, and then move on to the next. Well, what can we do about it? But that first step is itself going to take years.
well, I think that first step and that first question are in fact the thing to do, because it's ongoing. As individuals or any potential community or whatever, actively figuring out what's going on seems to be one of the principal activities, at least from the feel of what we've been talking about.
Let me make it very, I'll put it a little bit more clearer. And Rem and I talked about this last time, because of, if you're going to be studying, for example, QAnon, the last conversation we had, Rem, I said, well, you were talking about QAnon, and you were asking the question, how is it that people fall in for this? And I said, well, there are very clear, easy answers, and you were flabbergasted that I would say something like that, but there really are. If you spend most of your adult life thinking that things are out of control in your life and in society that you're in civilization, then psychologically you're susceptible to falling in with a group or a movement that provides an easy answer, a simplistic answer. I mean, that's a psychological a fulfillment for that, and that answers a lot of that question: how people will fall in with QAnon or nationalism or all the stuff that we're seeing, and if you repress the middle class over decades, if you repress, if you increase economic disparity, and you have the middle class squeezed out, and just oppression and economic and financial unemployment just chronic, you are almost guaranteed to create the type of nationalism and jingoism and small-minded ethnocentrism that we are seeing. I think this is very predictable, that we're living in something that was engineered for decades now, and we're reaping the whirlwind now. I'm saying that I don't think it's that difficult to come to that answer.
Well, I think the trap. I think that the trap in these sort of conversations, particularly when you have, let's call them more. I don't know. I'm almost reticent to use the word intelligent, but whatever. That you trap yourself in the epistemology, and even the discussion. And by the way, my book on conspiracy theories and QAnon is now some 80 pages, so I've been working on it steadily. I expect it will be a book, but it's going to take me at least another year to pull together. But the point I'm very strong on is that you get totally wrapped up in the epistemology. Totally, you just lose yourself in all these erudite expressions and all of these rationalizations, and you're going to get people together and they're all going to do blah, blah, blah. Well, I think was it Jean Baudrillard, the philosopher, the French philosopher, who said it's all a wank, or if he didn't say it in exactly those words, it's just a conversation. It's totally meaningless. He was also a guy, by the way, who said that there is no such thing as truth, and I certainly would agree with that too. So, and it's sort of like going back to your earlier conversation. I'm sorry, I left you guys to it because I was frankly getting, I think, this is going down that same route. You know, I mean, life. I'm going to just go back a bit. Life, in Alan Watts's terms, is it's a game. And if you're not enjoying the game, change the game. As simple as that. You don't have to think about anything else. You don't have to define goals for yourself. Is it a game? Are you enjoying it? Are you having fun? In that case, you're on the right track. Don't do anything else. Don't think about anything. Just do it. Just be it. Just be.
Well, there's different kinds of games, you know?
Yeah, pick it. It's your game.
Well, a lot of games. So, like, I love watching game design. It's all about providing a challenge, making people work hard to get out of
cognitive, Christopher. You're too cognitive, mate. It's not a game. Not that sort of game. That's too
cognitive for what?
That's
too cognitive for what?
It's too plain, too thought out, too
For what?
Well, if you say it's like a game, what is a game? You got a software designer that shapes, the whole structure of the thing, your inputs and your outputs and the in betweens.
Yeah, but you said it's too cognitive. It's not too cognitive for me. Well, it's just the right amount of cognitive for me.
Yeah, because you enjoy it. Because you've got a wonderful brain, David. It's your trap, mate. And when I asked you what's it about, you had to think.
Too cognitive for what?
Well, look.
When you say too, that means what? Too hot, too cold. It's too hot for what? Too cold for what? It's just the right amount for me. It's just right.
Fun. All right.
Not too much.
Okay. All right.
So I'm not saying the game is necessarily this way, but what if it's as simple as get to the top of the mountain and try not to get dislocated once you get up there? Call it a game of King of the Hill. It would require challenge, work, getting out of where you currently are. And it could be fun, even though it's hard. Like pain and work, and even being cognitive, stepping out of your cognitive comfort zone can be fun and engaging. Everyone has their own like style and preferences for what kind of conflicts or lack of conflicts they prefer in their life. So I'm not dismissing I do think there's a good amount of cognitive and conscious hubris that I would like a more balanced and effective approach on, but I don't want to not have any cognitive, need for challenging problem solving or, puzzle integrating, you know what I mean? So I think it can be fun and intellectual.
There's a joke with the meditation people that I have been involved with. What do you get when you get meditators who don't read? You get dumb meditators.
Yeah, well, so if we're talking about the game is let's climb the mountain. It's fun being at the top of the mountain. It's awesome. You get to see a lot more things. The air's more refreshing, whatever, and let's get more people up there because it sucks being alone at the top. So let's help others get to as high as they can be, because the scenery just gets better the higher you get, right? A lot of people might get comfortable saying, you know what, I took a step and this is all right, like I'm good. I don't have to think about it anymore. I've engaged on the path and I feel connected, I'm not going to worry about it anymore. Like life is good. I'll just let things be. I don't think that they're still in the same framework of the people that are more rewarded from trying to get more out of it. Like there's just weirdos out there like Elon Musk who just fucking work constantly. Those crazy borderline fucking CEOs that just it's work because it's fun for them. They can't think of not having. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to. Well, I'm sure there's a way to pathologize it, but
it's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And if you try to get rid of one of those three legs of the stool will fall over. You need all three. You can't dispense with the cognitive. You can't dispense with the intellectual. You got to do that. Buddha scholarship. Yeah.
So I was starting to talk about something about epistemology and ontology, that I'm saying that there is a trap of getting too caught up in the epistemology and being blind to the ontology. I'm blind to the beingness. So for example, David, you raised the subject of pure knowledge. Who are the people that are communicating, and what are they communicating? And the general thrust in the mainstream media, and I mean, this is relevant to our conversation, I feel. The main thrust is these are a bunch of nutters that are intent on destroying the system, intent on you know, all the things that you've read. But what if there is actually another communication that we're blind to, that we're so attached to the epistemology that we are blind to the fact that these people are communicating something quite profound, that they have a complete distrust in the system, and that they feel that they're, you know, that they're disenfranchised from it. So they're talking in ways that we find offensive, that is easy to debase, it's easy to reject, but there's a complete breakdown of trust in society, and it's growing, and it's a distrust in each other and in the system. We're blind to it because we're so hooked into the epistemology that we're not giving them the place in society as a voice, and that we need to listen to them, that there is something there, that there is a trust, a breakdown in trust. And that is really what is happening, that we're entering a new phase. And because our system of democracy, liberal democracy, is based on one thing, trust. And that's faltering. And so our system is faltering, and we're possibly entering a new era. So this is what I'm saying. This might sound like I'm talking about democracy. No, I'm talking about beingness. And so rather than talking about your three things, it's something about who you're being. You can't describe that. It is something I'm having difficulty communicating to you. But I just feel that in the end, it's just being. You can't use words to describe it. You can use your formula, by all means, and for some people it will work. I feel I've moved, I suppose I sound arrogant to say this, but I feel I've moved beyond that. I think I'm now in another domain where I
look at results.
Well,
yes.
there's also different personality types. Like what you call being, I agree with, even though I'm interpreting it in my own words. I feel like is on a spectrum with what I feel like David is calling doing. You know, being and doing, I don't know. Being is technically a verb. It ends with an ing. It means you are existing, which, even though you can just sit there and, you know, breathe, is an activity. Even if you're just thinking, being as passive as you can be, metabolism is happening in your body and in your nerve cells. So like, we're constantly doing something. So being and doing, I think some people have more of a drive, and that it is, I don't know, a matter of like personality, not necessarily. So there's two things you brought up. One is the QAnon people. The other one is epistemology. So like, in my experience, people who think a lot, cognitive types, philosophical types, have a deeper drive or hunger to figure things out intellectually, to use their critical thinking to break down, find out how things work, so they can have a more secure sense of an illusion of control, or, you know, something like that, right? But that I find that it isn't something people are consciously trying to do, even though the activity itself is conscious. I honestly look at it as a kind of response to a kind of trauma or wound or epistemological shock, or getting too much contradictory information from the culture, that simply, in order to feel at home in one's skin, one needs to try to reconcile what, if you just accept it on face value for what, you know, your environment provides you, is contradictory. It twists you up in knots, and you got to untangle the knot. So I feel like it might be telling someone who's just recently been hurt, even though we're talking about something more cerebral, mental than physical. It's like telling someone, oh, pick yourself up, it doesn't hurt that bad, you know. I think some people are different, whether it's like a matter of like resilience, you know, this guy can take a blow and be like, that wasn't shit. this guy, the same force will make him break down and cry, and he can't use his arm for a week, you know? So I feel like some people, it's not easy to just prescribe, hey, let it be, you know? There's something ongoing that needs to be healed. There needs to be a kind of epistemological integration to feel whole.
Yeah, but there's two sides to your hand. There's one side is your epistemology, and you can have people skating on the surface, and you can have the people that you described that go in and go deeper. There's another side to your hand, and that's your ontology, and it's your beingness. That's almost invisible to yourself, and I think that's your powerful side. So you can get totally caught up in your epistemology.
I guess that's what I'm saying is I feel like epistemology is a part of our ontology. Our being has, as part of its basic consciousness, a model of reality. That we can't like the same way we can't just stop our heart from beating. We can't just make our conscious cognitive abilities just disappear. They're there. You
talked about personality earlier, Christopher. You talked about personality. So, for example, by Myers-Briggs, I used to be a pretty well 10-0, 20-0 ENTJ. So which is the field marshal class. So that was my personality. Is that my personality? No, it was my personality that I shaped and adopted to and able to extract something out of society. Behind that ENTJ was a shy, vulnerable guy that had been bullied at school. And so behind that facade that was totally, that the epistemological side would never expose, was another side. And that was a pretty vulnerable, shaky, insecure lad. That was me. So that's why you don't discover, that's why I'm concerned about the epistemological roots. You could just deny the other side, that beingness that was behind. So consequently, when I do my, Myers-Briggs, I haven't done it for a while, but the last time, I'm just an NT now, an intuitive thinker. The other was too fuzzy. So that's what I'm saying. I'm very cynical about all the rational, epistemological roots to advancing. I rather like the simple, life is a game, and if you're not enjoying it, change the game.
Well, I guess just that can be viewed as an epistemological model.
Yeah, sure, I accept. Whatever you say, you can always tag it, but you get a lot of freedom.
Well, so I one of the great things I think about, whether it's consensus building or communication skill practice, is that we all have different dictionaries. Each of us use our own words differently. So, us talking about our differences of how we use the term being or epistemology, or, like why I try to stay away from the word being. I like, unconscious, or, your whole self. And, it just works for me in my model world to avoid certain ambiguities. But it's how we get to know each other. Once I know the words you use, then I know when you say that, you mean what I call this, and we're actually getting meaningfully somewhere, So I don't know. I feel like it's a part of establishing a reciprocal relationship with someone. So, well, because like this ties into what I was saying. So if I was telling David earlier, if say the goal of what we're doing is in a large measure figuring out what we're going to do, or what's going on, that I call that a goal in itself. So like I feel, so the way I consider an individual has a primal need for their own personal model and epistemology, I feel like the same way we have community needs, that goal for having a working model of reality, I call in community terms a common vision. So every time I communicate something to you and you interpret it and unpackage my words in a meaningfully, similar enough way to the way I represent it, your model of reality, your epistemology now includes a little bit of what I was able to convey to you. And when you respond, now my model of reality is a little bit more expanded to include your model of reality, or at least the superficial parts of it I can tease out over time the more I get to know you. But that over time, eventually you get to a point where, yeah, you might use words for this or that, but ultimately we all know what we're talking about. We're all on the same page, you know? And I feel like you can't completely be on the same page with anyone. Like you can't, even if you know someone your whole life, there might be secrets, stuff you simply don't have the time to codify it in words to tell a person every little detail of your model of reality. But there's meaningfully important, bigger chunks of our model that we can get across to each other than others. Like the same way that, God, there's, if you get an empty pit, you know, and you've got 3 huge boulders, a pile of medium-sized rocks, and a big pile of sand. If you put the details, the sand, the little stuff in first, and then you put the medium-sized rocks in on top, you're not going to have any room for the big stuff. If you take care of the big stuff, the big rocks, then you can fill in the gaps with the medium-sized details, and then the sand just falls into place, and you can have a completely whole understanding. So I feel like if we get the big rocks out, the most important stuff, like being is important to you, doing, I mean, I'm glossing over a lot of stuff. I'm just using super
clever analogy. Yeah. I have another meetup that's starting just a few minutes that I actually want to go to. It's the movie discussion night. I don't mind if you wanted to host and keep going, you two, but I have another meetup.
I'll just say this. I'd love to know why you guys are here having a conversation, because if I was on the same page with you, David, and with you, Christopher, if I was on the same page, I wouldn't be here. I'd say bye. I don't get much joy out of being on the same page with people. All I'd be doing is just reinforcing my view of the world. Really, I don't know whether it's the same with you.
I'm just trying to see what arises. You know, I said this before. It's experimental. I'm just open to see what happens. Maybe something good. Maybe, but you know, just be open to the encounter, the experience. That's the way I've always taken it, and adjust if you need to. And I don't think I have a goal. I don't think I have an agenda in mind. Let's just see what we can create together. That's always been my guiding stone, I think.
Yeah, I think what I'd like to come away, and that's why I participate in these conversations from time to time. It amuses me. You know, I don't want to debase you, but I mean, it just amuses me. It's fun. I love being challenged. I love to hear alternative views, and I think in particular to watch your faces when I blurt out some of my quite absurd suggestions, and I get a lot out of that. I just have a little bit of a thing about, you know, all the erudite epistemological based rationalizations, and they sound very cute.
Well, come back on Sunday. We'll continue this.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, you go to your meeting. I don't know. You want to chat a bit more, Christopher, or you want to go?
Well, I'll give an ending note. You know, so I get out of this. In real life, 9 out of 10 people don't have an interesting enough page for me to want to get on the same page.
Yeah.
And also, I think that they're neither interested nor able to understand the quirky complexities of my own page.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So even if someone doesn't want to get on my page necessarily, there's interesting folk here to at least attempt it. Like I like what David said when I first got on at the beginning about even if we don't agree with what the other one's saying, some people are more worthwhile and fulfilling to try to understand, even if.
Contact me on Facebook sometime. We'll continue, Chris.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Hey,
okay, guys.
You said Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday. They'll be back on Sunday, guys. Everybody. All right.
Hey,
thanks.
Thanks a lot, David. And good talking to you too.